Texture, layer, and vintage charm is the tagline for today's video tutorial. We're going to jump into our favorite things, some layers and some popped up features, some ink and some splatters, and all the beautiful things that we love. It's a very versatile project, which I always try to bring versatile. Whether you want to make this as a tag, a file card, a card front, a journal embellishment, all the things. Let's jump in here and let's get started. Okay, for today's project, we're going to need a couple of things I've been playing with, a couple of things new here in the studio that I had just been sitting here waiting for me to be done with certain December classes so I can just play. So almost as always, I have grabbed here mixed media paper from ScrapbookCom. I have these nested vintage classic labels, and I have two out. Probably going to be using this size right here, and there's a couple of reasons for that. This Moroccan tile, I thought I had it in my stash, and then I saw it during SBC Fest. I'm like, I need that in my life. So I've recently grabbed that. Everything is upside down. That was a gift right there. Letterbox postmarks, because I love the ledgers in here. I always love postmarks. I'm going to be grabbing the vintage paper, some spice paper, these leaf fragment dies, and the cello tape. Have you used this yet? Super fun, super fun. And also some sentiments, because I got gratitude on my mind. It's like the last hurrah before Christmas was really here in full force. Oh, I also happen to have a box full of frame necessities from Vicky Booten. So those are going to come into play as well. And then, as always, kind of some basics, always with the twine. I have this unraveled mica stain. It is absolutely gorgeous. Some ink blending tools there, and a recent edition of these mini oxides in frayed burlap and gathered twigs and ground espresso and hickory smoke. And then, of course, foam adhesive. We always need that. We always make use of that. There goes the twine falling down in between the desk parts. Okay, let's get started here. So like I said in the intro, I'm going to be crafting what I like to call a card file, but or a file card rather, but there's so many ways that we can make these types of projects work in all of the ways that we like to have layered, embellished, beautiful things. So hang on to the end for that. But to start, part of the inspiration for this was this shaped idea. So I'm going to grab the mixed media paper, just all white and on its own here. And I'm going to reach here for, if I can find them, the vintage label. I'm going to build everything on this shape of a card. I love doing that. And I've been playing with this idea of how to even make that appear to have even more layers to it. I mean, is it even possible? Yes, actually, it is possible. So, with the mixed media paper, you really should be going through twice. And I know that, and I know better, but I got to be jabby here. Fortunately, I can just pop that right back into its grooves. I'm going to run that through again, and then we'll get started on that. So one thing I will give a tip to while we're at it is, while you have everything out, go ahead and die cut a couple pieces. We're going to be making one idea today, but my brain is already sort of going into overdrive into the different variations that we can make with this idea. And that being said, if you don't already go and peruse the gallery at ScrapbookCom, this is sort of a shameless plug here. I'm going to link my gallery, because almost always, if I have an idea in the making, I won't just make the one, I'll make another item. There's almost always more than one. All right, so at this point, I'm going to lay the stencil over the top of my shape, and using the Distress mica stain and this unravel. Like I said, this is a beautiful color. I don't dabble too much in the mica stain, and I don't know why not. And it's one of those things where you just got to pull stuff out. You got to try things. And I'm just going to lightly spritz over this, okay? I think I'm going to be good with just even one spritz. One thing I really love about this, and I think it's just by virtue of it being a spray, well, you'll get this really fine mist of a spray, but then you'll get these splattery parts. So what I'm going to need to do is to gently lift this, okay? What I'm probably going to want to end up doing, though, is because of what's going to come on top here, I'm going to turn this upside down so then I still get the advantage of these splattery parts. So you're going to want to let this dry, and I suggest using a heat tool when you've got the shimmer, because it just sort of pops the shimmer out of there. All right, now we're going to add in some more distressed features to our shape here. One of the ways I'm going to do that is by inking the edges, and I'm using the frayed burlap. Now, I guess on the onset, again, another reason why you just got to play with the colors and see what comes of them, because this frayed burlap, which appears to be fairly gray on its cover, actually is a wonderfully beautiful complement to the, what's it called again? The Unraveled. And so I was pretty happy when I was playing with this idea and playing with colorways, and it always helps too to create your own little swatch of ink. And, you know, when I saw the frayed, I'm like, oh, that's a nice combination of some coloration there. That's how that came about. In case you two are curious, that's why I chose frayed burlap for this, because of just seeing what my swatch looked like. I always encourage when you get new inks to swatch them out. You just don't really know what they look like until you have them on the surfaces, especially the surfaces that you use so often. So I'm just going to come around here and finish with this. And so while I have the frayed burlap on my desk, and it's going to probably hang out for a little while anyway, I'm going to utilize it to bring in some script stamping on the edges. Now, a couple things here. I'm going to come in here like this, but I'm going to come and just wipe some of this ink away. I don't want that hard line. The other thing is that there's going to be another layer come across here on this particular shape. So I'm going to come down here on the left side to add in that scripting. And another tip that I love to share is it kind of came in a little heavy. The thing is that you can come in, especially when you're using Distress Oxide, just come in and just kind of softly buff it. And you're going to smudge it just a little bit, and you can take out some of those harder edges or those extra heavy stamped images, and it doesn't need a lot. Don't go buffing it. Just really lightly go over it. Now we're going to do the same thing again, but this time I want to use this other stamp. There's a bigger stamp in here, and we're going to use it on the right side. And because I know I'm just going to come in here, I'm just going to come right here along the edge with my stamping. All right, whoops. And again, I'm not going in barrel heavy, just a sort of tap. And again, I'm looking at this, I'm like, you know, I could maybe like that just a little lighter. And so there you go. Isn't that cool? I think it's cool. I love when we can manipulate these things and just really, really customize even how we're distressing or how we're inking on the edges. Now, the next thing I'm going to want to add in is postage. And so I love in this letterbox postmarks, these postage images that are not complete. They have this, I'm talking about vintage. So I'm going to do, I think what I'm going to do, nope, you know what? I don't want the frayed, actually. I'm going to grab another ink color. All right, I've grabbed the gathered twigs. I wanted to bring in just a little bit different coloration. Let's go like this. A little bit different coloration on the postmark. I'm also going to come in here, just tap some of that off. Let me try that again. And then come in here. And this is just going to kind of fill in, whoops, where my other layer is going to come into play with the rest of this tag here. And because I can, I'm just going to grab another one of these postmarks. And I'm going to come in here on the right lower hand side and repeat the idea with a different stamp. So I'm trying to decide, do I really want that? Yeah, I'm going to come in here like this and kind of sideways. All right, pretty happy with that. Okay, I'm going to use the same size die that I used to make our base. And I'm going to cut half of a piece of this vintage paper. I only want sort of kind of a topper part. And that actually might be a little too much even. So just want to make sure if you have a pattern and you're doing this, that this is even on both sides. Helps to utilize these cutting mats where you have grids, because then you can line those up. So only having cut the top third, it's going to find its home up here, but let's sand the top part of it a bit. Okay, so we're going to sand and distress the edges. And the reason I'm just going for the sanding on the top part is because I'm going to come in here with my fancy schmancy distress tool and pull up the bottom edge like that, because I really want that white core to show. Okay, so that's what's happening there. All right, I'm grabbing a piece of this cello tape, and sometimes I'm not sure which side it's on that I can grab it from. It should be this side. There we go. Easy schmeezy. And I'm just going to add a piece to my top third topper. I just love this idea in particular because it really plays back into that frayed burlap for one thing. I thought that was super cool. And so that just makes me happy. And I'm going to use the 1mm foam adhesive to pop this up. So it's going to give an illusion of more layers than what are really here, just by virtue of adding this kind of a double layer in a way, if you will. I don't feel like it needs a lot of height. Adding it just with a 1mm, I think is good. So we're gonna line this back up at the top edge of the shape base, and just now we have a second layer. Next, I'm using a scrap of paper from the spice. It's like this ivory color, and I'm going to cut this leaf fragment from it, and then we're going to do some distressing of this. So for this one, I use the smallest, skinniest leaf that's part of this collection. There's 5 set dies. Yeah, leaf dies that come in here. I was right. And I wanted the little skinny one here. So what I'm going to do is now come in with, let's see, I think I want the ground espresso. I think that's what I want. Might be, you know, I'm feeling as I pull that out, I'm like, yeah, that feels a little dark to me. I don't want to commit that much. So I'm going to do the gathered twig. I'm just going to come gently around all the edges and give it some ink. Just super easy. Just one way. At any point in time, when we're adding these different layers in to distress die cuts or papers, bases of cards, tags, whatever, at any point in time, we can stop. And so this would be lovely as a layer, just like it is. But wait, there's more. Let me clear the deck here for a minute, because I'm going to come back in here with the unraveled, and I'm going to give it a nice spritz. And I always start out lighter first. Ooh, I don't hate that. I got a lot of splotchy stuff going on up here, so I'm going to do the same on the bottom. Yeah. And I'm going to go ahead and heat set this. So one thing to keep in mind when you're using non-mixed media paper and then adding a medium, even like a spritz to it, it could kind of have a bit of adverse response to the liquid. So go light. This is just kind of a basic cardstock. It's not really meant to hold inks. So just, not that it can't. I mean, we're going to make these things work the best that we can. So I wanted this to hold ink. But just be mindful that you don't want to go crazy. Don't go heavy. Unless you want it super, super saturated. I have done that as well in the past. The thing we're going to do with this now, after we have splattered it with the mica stain, is we're going to just crinkle the whole leaf, because it looks cool that way. And so I thought, well, let's crinkle together. And again, at any time you can stop. At any time you can say, yeah, I'm not the crinkling type, and don't crinkle. But I think it's fun. And I think these kinds of fragmented leaf idea here is just kind of made for this. So that's why I went for it. All right, at this point I want to find I think that this is not a bad look. It would need some ink, but that is something we could definitely add to this shape. But I also know that we have some slide features in here. So I wanted to grab the slide frame, and these just keep multiplying. As you pull things out, there are more shapes to be had. And I don't think it'd be horrible to add a little bit of inking around the edges. Do you agree? Do you think that'd be okay to do that? I love it. I like it. And then let's add a bit more dimension, looking for my scissors here, and pop this up nicely. So this is now, I believe it's a 2mm. So it's a bit more. It's going to just kind of give us a bit more dimension than when we use the 2mm there for our topper piece. And now we're just, doing our thing and adding yet a different level of dimension. So the thing that I've taught before, I think it's really important to just remember, it's part of the layering that I love to do, really involves how the layering happens. So what's important to me here in this process is that this frame layers over these 2 layers. So we got 3 layers happening. We have more than 3. We've got a background of spritz. We have a background of some stamping. We have a layer of pattern paper. We have a little piece of cello that's just so stinking adorable. I just want to pinch it. We have this frame here, and everything just feels really right. So just be mindful of how things are crossing over other things. And if it sits right to you, I'm going to pop a bit of that same adhesive. I think because of how it's sitting in here, I don't think I need to double this up. You can, or you could even add the 2mm in the one, or if you have the 3mm. I know, so many options. You're like, can we just make the layers work? Absolutely, we can just make the layers work. And we are. So this is living in, well, let me make sure I got it. Yeah, I don't really want it on that. I don't really want it to go on top of the frame. I want it inside the frame. There we go. That's better. Okay. And then at this point, I am looking for my twine. Do you remember the part in the middle of the beginning of the video where I mentioned it fell? Yeah, it was on the floor, and sometimes that happens. So here we have I just cut a piece, made a bow out of it, and I'm actually going to glue it here to the top of the leaf. And so a couple ways to use this is as a tag all its own. You could put a hole up here and put a larger ribbon if you would like to make it a tagged gift enclosure. You can pop it into a card file and kind of treat it like memory decks or a card file, a file card, and add it to your collection. I have a bit of a collection here from this fall that I've very much enjoyed adding to, and this could be one of those things. Or, I don't know about you, but I have a lot of gratitude to share with family and friends and loved ones, and so I will be making some cards with mine, and you can add it to a card front. As a matter of fact, I was just thinking right now, there's a pattern in here in this vintage paper that is itself, obviously it's vintagey, so it looks fairly distressed and whatnot, but that would be lovely there if you wanted to add that and make it a card background. Anyway, as always, the possibilities, while maybe not absolutely endless, they're pretty close. It just needs our imagination to put these lovely elements to work. I hope you'll try this project. Let me know if you do. You can find all the supplies. They're linked below. Everything. Make some tags up, make some variations on an idea. Give them away. Give them as a Thanksgiving gift. Give them as a Christmas gift. It doesn't have to be Christmassy to be given that, right? And then stay tuned as we're going to be heading into the holiday season with a whole bunch of brand new, fresh ideas. See you next time.